Was he insane? Did he possess a sixth sense, or was he genuinely haunted? My friend Julian told me the beginning of this tale, and I witnessed the dreadful conclusion with my own eyes. Back in our school days, Julian and I had a particular dislike for a boy named Caleb. Whenever we bent the rules, he was always there to report us to the teacher. I remember one afternoon we filched some cherries from a tree in the orchard. "Do you know who did this?" the teacher asked the class. Caleb stood up. "It was Julian and Arthur," he said without hesitation. Later, Julian confronted him, demanding to know how he knew. "I didn't know," Caleb replied calmly. "I just had a feeling it was you. And I was right." Years passed. Julian and I grew up. Caleb became a strict vegetarian who never touched alcohol. He also, somehow, became Sir Caleb Vance. After we all graduated from Oxford University, I took a position in India. A year later, I returned to England, eager to see Julian. He had always been a beacon of joy, kind and honest. I missed the cheerful glint in his blue eyes and the sound of his easy laugh. I went to visit him at his London flat, but the man who greeted me was a stranger. The laughter was gone, replaced by a deep-seated misery. His face was gaunt and pale, his body weak and frail. The house was in chaos, filled with large boxes overflowing with furniture and books. "I'm moving," he explained, his voice flat. "I can't stand this house any longer. There's something wrong with it. I'm leaving tomorrow." "Let's go out for dinner," I suggested, trying to inject some normalcy into the situation. "I'm too busy." He cast a nervous glance into the corners of the room. "Look, Arthur, it's wonderful to see you, but could you go to the restaurant and bring something back for us?" When I returned with the food, we sat by the fireplace and ate. I tried to lift his spirits with old jokes, and he made an effort to laugh, but his eyes kept darting toward the shadows that danced in the room. After we finished, I couldn't hold back any longer. "All right, what's the matter? You have to tell me." He remained silent, his gaze lost in the flickering firelight. "You're on edge, Julian," I pressed. "What is it?" "Debt, gambling, a woman. Tell me, or go see a doctor. You're sick." "I won't be your friend if you talk to me like that," he snapped. "Well, I am your friend, and something is terribly wrong. Just tell me." But he wouldn't. He asked me to stay the night, but I had already booked a hotel room, so I left. When I came back the next morning, he was gone. Movers were loading the last of his boxes into a van. Julian had left no forwarding address. It was more than a year before I saw him again. He appeared at my door early one morning, before I'd even had breakfast. He looked ghastly, far worse than before. His face was as thin and white as a ghost's, and his hands trembled uncontrollably. I invited him in for breakfast, refraining from asking any questions. I knew he had come to tell me something. I made coffee, chattered about trivial things, and waited. "I'm going to kill myself," he began, his voice barely a whisper. "Don't worry, not here, not now. I'll do it when it becomes necessary, when I can't go on living, and I want someone to know why. Can I tell you?" "Yes, of course," I said, stunned. "You must promise not to tell a soul while I'm alive," he'd insisted. "I promise." He stared into the fire for a long moment. "It's hard to begin," he said. "You remember Caleb Vance, don't you?" "Yes. I haven't seen him in ages. Someone told me he went off to some remote island to teach vegetarianism to cannibals." I chuckled. Julian did not laugh. "Yes, he's gone, but not to an island. He's dead." "Dead? How?" "You remember how he always seemed to know when people did something wrong? Well, he told a woman I loved some terrible things about me. She left me. Then, she died, very suddenly. It was awful. When I went to her funeral, he was there. Later that day, I was at home, just sitting and thinking, and he showed up. "I hope you threw him out," I said angrily. "No, I listened. He came to tell me it was for the best that she was dead and that we hadn't married. I asked why. He said there was madness in my family. And is there? I don't know, but he claimed he knew. and that he had told her. I told him I'd never heard anything about madness in our family. He just said, "So you see, it's better you didn't marry, isn't it?" And then I put my hands around his neck. I don't know if I meant to kill him, but that's what happened. I was in shock, unable to speak. "What can you say when your best friend confesses to being a murderer?" Julian continued. When I saw he was dead, I was surprisingly calm. I sat down and thought it through. There was no blood, no weapon. Everyone knew Caleb was supposedly leaving for an island. He had told me he'd already said his goodbyes. So there was no problem, except one. I had to get rid of the body. He gave a hollow smile. "No, I won't tell you how. You promised not to tell anyone, but you might talk in your sleep or in a fever. I'm only safe if you don't know where the body is. Do you understand?" I felt a surge of pity for my friend. I couldn't believe he was a killer. "Yes, I understand. Look, let's go away together. We can travel, see the world, and forget all about Caleb." His face lit up with relief. "You understand? You don't hate me? Why didn't I tell you this before?" "It's not too late," I said. "It's never too late. We'll pack our bags tonight. We'll go somewhere nobody can ever find us." "No," he said, the light fading from his eyes. "When I tell you what's happened to me, you'll change your mind." "But I know what happened to you." "No," he said slowly. "I've told you what happened to him, not what happened to me. That's very different." "Did I tell you his last words?" Just before my hands closed around his throat, he said, "Be careful, Julian. You'll never get rid of my body." Well, I did get rid of his body, and I forgot all about his words. But a year later, I was sitting right here, and I suddenly remembered them. I said aloud, "I got rid of your body quite easily, Caleb." And then I looked down at the carpet in front of the fire, and Julian let out a choked scream. "I can't tell you. No, I can't." At that exact moment, a loud clap of thunder rattled the windows. I went to look outside and saw dark storm clouds gathering. "Where was I?" Julian asked, his voice shaking. "Oh, yes." I looked at the carpet, and there he was. "Caleb, I can't explain it." The door was locked, the windows were shut. He wasn't there one moment, and he was there the next. "A hallucination," I said firmly. "That's exactly what I thought," he agreed. "But I touched it. It was real. It was heavy and hard, like stone. Its arms were rigid, like a statue's." "It was a hallucination," I repeated. "I thought maybe someone put it there as a sick joke. So I went to the place where I had hidden him. He was still there, exactly as he was a year before." "My dear Julian," I said, trying to sound reasonable, "this is all in your head. You might think it's funny, but when I wake up in the middle of the night and think of it, it isn't funny at all. I don't want to die in the dark, Arthur. That's why I think I'll kill myself. At least then I can be sure I won't die in the dark." "Is that all?" "No." He came back again. I was asleep on a train one day, and when I woke up, he was sitting on the seat opposite me. He looked the same as before, hard and rigid like a statue. I threw him out of the window while we were in a tunnel. If I see him again, I'll kill myself. You think I'm mad, but I'm not. You can't help me. Nobody can. He knew, you see. He said I'd never get rid of his body, and I can't. He always knew things, Arthur. I promise you, I'm not mad." "I don't think you're mad," I said gently. "I think your mind is deeply disturbed. But we'll stay together. If you can talk to me, you won't imagine these things." So we began to travel together, and I was filled with hope. Julian had always been such a rational person. I couldn't accept that he had lost his mind. I was determined to help him recover. After a month or two, the darkness seemed to lift. We joked and laughed again. I was overjoyed, believing my old friend was finally back to his normal self. He's forgotten about Caleb, I thought. He's fine now. We arrived in Bridgewater during a major exhibition, and every hotel was fully booked. We managed to find only one available room, a small one with a single bed at a hotel called the Grand Verna. It meant I would have to sleep in the armchair. We had dinner, went to a pub, and returned to our room late. We talked for a while before Julian got into bed. I tried to make myself comfortable in the armchair, but sleep wouldn't come easily. Just as I was drifting off, Julian began to talk about his will. "I've left everything to you, Arthur," he said. "I know I can trust you to take care of everything." "Thank you," I said sleepily. "Let's talk about it in the morning." But he continued, telling me what a good friend I was. I urged him to go to sleep, but he complained of being thirsty. "Though, all right," I sighed. "Light the candle and get some water. And then please let me sleep." "No, you light it. I don't want to get out of bed in the dark. I might step on something or walk into something that wasn't there when I got into bed." I lit the candle. He sat up in bed and stared at me. His face was a deathly pale, his hair was a mess, and his eyes shone with a feverish light. "That's better," he said. "Oh, look here. There are 2 large letters on the sheet, embroidered in red cotton. G.V. George Vance." "No," I said, exasperated. "It's the symbol for the hotel. Grand Verna. Now hurry up and get that water. Please come with me, Arthur." "I'll go down by myself," I said, picking up the candle and heading for the door. He leaped out of bed in an instant. "No, I don't want to be left alone in the dark," he pleaded like a frightened child. I tried to make a joke of it, but a wave of disappointment washed over me. All my efforts to help him had been for nothing. He wasn't better at all. We crept downstairs as quietly as possible and got some water from the dining room. Julian took the candle from me and led the way back to our room, moving slowly, his eyes scanning every corner. I knew what he was looking for, and I felt a mix of anger and anxiety. As we entered our room, I half expected to see something on the carpet, but of course, there was nothing. I blew out the candle, pulled the blankets around me in the armchair, and tried once more to sleep. "You've got all the blankets." Julian's voice came from the bed. "No, I haven't. Only the ones I had before." "Well, I can't find mine. I'm so cold." "Light the candle. Quick, light it. There's something horrible." But I couldn't find the matches. "Light the candle. Light the candle," he shrieked. "If you don't, he'll come to me. He'll come in the dark. I can't die in the dark. Please, Arthur, light the candle." "I am lighting it," I snapped, fumbling in the darkness, my hands sweeping across the shelf, the table. I couldn't remember where I'd put them. "You're not going to die. It's all right. I'll find the matches in a second." "It's cold, it's cold, it's cold," he chanted, and then he screamed, a terrifying, high-pitched sound, like a rabbit caught by a predator. "What is it?" I cried out. There was a chilling silence. Then, very slowly, he spoke, his voice sounding strange and distant. "It's Caleb." "Of course it isn't," I said, my hand finally closing around the matchbox. "He's here," he screamed. "Here, next to me, in the bed." I struck a match and lit the candle. I rushed to the bed. Julian was lying on the very edge of the mattress. Next to him lay a dead man, his skin white and cold. Julian had died in the dark, just as he had feared. There was a simple explanation. Julian and I were in the wrong room. It was the room of a man named Felix LeBlanc, who had died of a heart attack earlier that day. Later, I discovered more. Back in England, the police found the body of a man named Simmons near a railway tunnel, a bottle of poison in his hand. He was a depressed man who had taken his own life in the carriage Julian had been in. Julian had thrown his body out of the window. Julian left me all his possessions in his will. I asked a police inspector to be present when I opened the boxes he had left in my care. Inside one of them were the bodies of 2 men. One was eventually identified as a traveling salesman who had died from an epileptic seizure. The other body was Caleb's. I leave it to you to explain the events of this story. I, for one, cannot find an explanation that truly satisfies me.